Hello and welcome to Free Apps for Educators Teaching Online. This webinar is part of the online K12 Teacher Series brought to you by Schools First Center for Creativity and Critical Thinking at California State University, Fullerton. My name is Lindsay O'Neill. I am a full-time faculty member in the Master of Science in Instructional Design and Technology program at California State University, Fullerton. We are an entirely online program, so I have a lot of experience teaching online. And I'm also an instructional designer. So today I'm going to share with you some of my favorite apps that make my life teaching online a little bit easier. So here is a sneak preview of all 20 apps that I'm going to talk about today. I've got a bunch on learning activities, several on design and presentations, some productivity tools because goodness knows when you are trying to keep yourself organized online, it needs something to help you do it. Some items for collaboration and assessment for your students, and I'll finish off with some media recording. All of these apps are free, or at least freemium. Sometimes they are a free version of a more robust app that if you paid a little bit more, you'd get a little bit more. But they are all free to use. And I am using the word app a little bit loosely here, so I hope that you will forgive me for that. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. So I want to start with a game. If you never experienced Kahoot, it is a lot of fun. I'm actually going to show you a preview mode as a Kahoot creator. I just want to start by saying that this is really easy for players to dive in. They just have to go to this website, enter a game pin, and enter their name. So let me show you what this looks like here. Got my browser open. I'm going to go ahead and test this Kahoot so you can see what it looks like. All right, so how it works is the user uses their own mobile device or their own computer, and then up on the screen, whether you're in a webinar or in a physical classroom, you've got your own screen that has all the information they need to be able to play. So I'm going to go ahead and enter this. So now how this preview mode works is it's previewing the main screen, and it's also previewing as if I'm using my own device here. So you see when you log in as a player, you need to go to kahoot.it and you need to enter this game pin. So this is my little mobile device here being simulated. So I just need to enter 2104083, hit enter. Need to put in your nickname. All right. And of course, as the game runner, you're able to quickly boot out any names that you find inappropriate for class. All right, so the user gets a message that they're in. I'm the only player in this scenario, so let's go ahead and get started. I've just got a simple 3-question quiz set up that I want to show you. It's on Yosemite National Park. So you can see, again, the mobile device is counting down. Now up on screen, you've got a timer here, and you can only answer by your phone. And what's really interesting is that the answers are only on screen and the colored buttons are on the phone. So on your phone, you don't actually see the answers. They're only up on screen here. And what's really fun is that if you have a class full of people that are answering, all their stats show up here at the top. All right. And again, more fun with more people, but there's a scoreboard between each question so that your users can see how many points they're getting. The faster they answer, the more points they get. So this gets to be a really fun, competitive learning activity. I'll demo the other 2 questions. Out-of-place builders are called what? Again, answers are on screen. Only the buttons are on my phone. That is by design to keep your students' eyes up on screen and not on their phones. All right, great. Lindsay's still in the lead. Last question. But how many visitors per year does Yosemite receive? 4 million. All right. And what we're missing out here is that there actually is really fun music that plays during this Kahoot as well. It really adds to the kind of like exciting experience. Then at the very end of the quiz, there's a final leaderboard where it shows who won, who got second, who got third, and it shows you on your student's phone too as well who which place that they landed in. It's a lot of fun. I find this to be a really fun experience for both kids and for adults. I'm always surprised how much basically everyone enjoys it. All right, so go ahead and move that off screen. We'll head back over to my slideshow here. So that's Kahoot. It's really fun. It's free. Got a screenshot there of the screen you put at the front of the class. It does have easy student access. They see a mobile device or a computer or a tablet, whatever. It has a really fun game show design. It does have really fun music that plays when the students are logging in and working through the questions. What's nice about it too is that the learners are tracked. So if they did use their real names, you're able to generate spreadsheets of how your learners did on the back end. So you can actually see for every quiz how everyone answered, if it was correct or not. So it's a nice way to kind of track student progress as well. This is a really great activity for maybe kicking off a class kind of as a nice hook to get your students excited about whatever the day's topic is going to be. It's a nice way to, in general, if you ever need to bring up the energy in a lesson, it's a really nice way to get up the energy, get your students excited, get them a little bit competitive, and get them interested in whatever the content is, because it's really funny, really how competitive everyone does get. All right, let's move on. The next app I'd like to show you is called H5P. You'll find it at h5p.org. It is not a catchy name, but it is a really wonderful resource that has lots of ways to make really interactive and beautiful learning activities. So it is an open source tutorial maker. I've got some of the content types that are featured up here. You can make course presentations, which are kind of like PowerPoints with interactive slides. I'll give you a demo in just a minute. You can take any video you find on YouTube and you can make it interactive, and then it has games as well, like memory games. So the interactive video is great because you can put questions throughout a video. So say you have like a 5-10 minute video, you can sprinkle in questions so the video will automatically pause and your user will have to answer them. So it's a nice chance for them to get a moment to kind of check their own understanding, make sure they're still paying attention. This is great because there's no need to download the software. If you do have your own WordPress site or if you use Moodle as your learning management system, you can get a plugin for either of those so that you can have your own copy of H5P totally free. Otherwise, you can use h5p.org. And there are dozens of formats of different tutorials on H5P. And what's nice is most of them are accessible /508 compliant. There's a full list online if you just search for it, and more of them are becoming accessible every day. All right. Let's see. So I mentioned the interactive video. This is really nice because you can insert questions into videos. You can upload your own, or you can use videos from YouTube. So it doesn't matter if you own the video or not. You can still use it as part of your lesson. And again, I mentioned course presentations. This is a screenshot of one that I created. You can see it's very pretty. Oops, it went backwards. Each of these is a button down here. It can be used to make click-through tutorials. You can embed videos, audio, quizzes, games. And again, if you do have Moodle or Drupal, you can get a H5P plugin. And you can use H5P as a graded assignment in your LMS. And you can, of course, embed these anywhere as iframes. So you can always embed them into your LMS, embed them to a course page. All right. Let's pause there. I'll show you a couple of examples. So this is an example of a course presentation. I actually got kind of meta with this. I used H5P to create a tutorial about H5P. So you can navigate by using the arrows below. It really is kind of like a PowerPoint in a lot of ways, but you can just add interactive elements into it. So you can scroll through here. I've got some content, more content. Now I've got a knowledge check. So users can pause, answer that, see how they did, and then at the very end of the tutorial, it'll actually give them a summary of how they did throughout all the questions on the tutorial, so that's really nice. More content, another knowledge check, so you've got a different format here. This one you have to drag and drop the answers into the blank boxes there. Awesome, I got it correct. More content, you have links to outside materials. I've got a short scenario here. So if she wants to use H5P to make a multi-slide tutorial, she'd want to use course presentation. So I built this so it's a drag and drop. We can use images to make them a little bit more interesting. I got it right. Good for me. More content. Oh, this is interesting. You can do flashcards in H5P. So you can do a whole set of these. You can also embed them into your course presentation. Let's see, select the Creative Commons license in this example citation. There it is, check, great. So you can also have interesting questions where you check stuff. And then scroll through to the end here so you can see the final summary slide. It does have a summary for your user. So again, you can embed one of these into your learning management system, and you can use it as a graded activity if you have that set up in Moodle or in Drupal. There's also an interactive video option. I think this is pretty fun. Here's a demo that H5P created on smoothies. So it tells the user, press the buttons that appear during the video. So there's a little music here that you can't hear because my computer's muted, but you can see each of these little circles is where there will be a question that pops up. You can set it to automatically pause or not. But you can see, you can answer the questions, the video continues. It's a really simple example. You can also set it so users will have to be forced to view these things and actually go back and review the content if they get them wrong. I haven't really been paying very much attention. I think strawberries and milk have been added, but maybe not. Nope, I got 0 of 2 correct. All right. And then it can kick you back to watch the intro again to make sure that you understand the content. And just like with YouTube, you got other options here for speeding up the rate, changing the volume. Of course, these can be closed captioned as well if you are using YouTube videos. All right, so let's pull that off to the side and move on. So that's H5P. I love H5P. I think it has a lot of wonderful uses. You can use it to create tutorials for your students. You can also have your students use it to create tutorials for assignments as well. So that's kind of a fun option. All right. You've probably seen and Google a lot as an educator, but something that you may not know is that Google Forms can actually be used to create graded quizzes. Google does have a graded feature, so you can use Google Forms to create quizzes for your class. So if you're using something like, Google Classroom, you can use Google Forms to create quizzes. And you can also use Google Forms to create a choose your own adventure or a branched lesson. Because Google Forms does have the option to send a user different ways depending on how they answer something, you can get really creative with Google Forms to make some really interesting quizzes and lessons as well. So maybe, again, if they answer a question incorrectly, they have to go back and review some content. You can put tons of pictures and text into Google Forms to make a really robust lesson that kind of is tailored to how your learner is doing in the lesson itself. So that's a different way to kind of mix up your content. All right, so next one's called Opia. This is a really fun online website that's free. The lessons in Opia are known as explorations. They provide immersive and interactive experiences. So they take kind of what could be a dull kind of textbook reading activity and make it more interactive for your students. They are really easy to create and share. Let me give you an example of this. So I pulled up a lesson already on electromagnetism. So this is the home landing screen for that. So you can preview what the 3 modules are here, and it gives you a little snippet over here of what the content is going to be. So you can do get electrified, introduction to electric charge, introduction to electric field, and then the basics of Gauss law. Let's go ahead and start at the beginning, and I like that it has a nice little hover feature so you can see what you're hovering over here. So that will load, and this is interesting because it's actually kind of like a text interaction, which of course your students are going to be very familiar with, I'm sure. So to start, I'm going to give you a few examples of physical phenomena. Can you identify what all of them have in common? So it offers 3 photographs. Last one's a little bit skewed. And there's your answer down here below. And if you answer incorrectly, little, what is this, an otter, says, actually, no, that's not true. And it gives some guidance on why you got it wrong. And it only gives you one option to continue on whether or not you really want to. So again, it's kind of like a little text interaction here. Depending on how you answer, different things can happen. Let's see. This one's giving me another option to try it again. Anyways, you get the gist here. It's a more fun, kind of personalized learning experience where it feels like you're kind of talking to a character and learning at the same time, rather than just being kind of, left to do something more passive on your own. So that's Opia. You can browse through tons of content that already exists in Opia. So there's tons of stuff that you can search for and reuse. It is Creative Commons licensed, so you're free to just reuse it as is. Or you can also adapt someone else's content. You can also create your own content in Opia. Again, you can also have your students maybe use Opia to create content as class assignments as well. All right. Next up is Twine. I've got a screenshot from Twine here. This was a Twine that someone created to teach APA skills in a library workshop. So the gist of this is the library is being overtaken by zombies. Use your APA to create an antidote, cure the zombies, and save the library. And let's go or no thanks. It's like a choose your own adventure, but for teaching. So this is really neat. Open source tool for telling interactive, non-linear stories. So basically, it makes it really easy, kind of like Google Forms, but its sole purpose here is to actually make stories, to do choose your own adventures. The software is available for Windows or Mac. Oops, I scrolled on that pretty quickly. So there's a lot of options here to create content, and what's nice about it too is you do download the software, and you are in charge of having to kind of host it yourself. So it's nice to have the control. It's not like you're creating something on a website, and that website's going to end up getting bought out or become suddenly stuck behind a paywall or something. So it's nice to have control of your content if you're using something like Twine. All right, moving on. Hypothesis. I think this is a really interesting software. This software lets you annotate live web pages. I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm doing research and I want to just be able to make my own notes on the website. This lets you do that. You can actually annotate live web pages. You just get a plugin for your browser. And as a learning assignment, you can actually create groups that can see each other's work. So it's a nice kind of collaboration tool potentially as well, in addition to a learning activity. I mean, you could have notes set up that you set up on a website for your students to view, or you could have students create their own notes, and then you can see that they're actually reading the content they're supposed to be reading. You can see if they're understanding it or not as well. All right. So I've actually got a couple examples for you of Twine and Hypothesis. So let's dive into Twine. I had a screenshot in there of an example of Twine. But here's another one called All Hail the King. And you can see it's kind of text-based. It's simple, but simple is often just as effective as something really technically fancy. So this is a story, and it's got links for you to click through. So this one, it's got some kind of expose, right? And now we're able to make some choices and decide where the story is going to go. And then there's more choices here. So obviously this is kind of a silly example. This is just a story that students are walking through, but again, you could use this for lessons. You could use this as maybe like a hook for students to get really invested in a lesson by having an interesting story. There's a few options there. All right, let's take a look at Hypothesis. So I've got the Hypothesis plugin on my computer, and you can see that this is Othello, the play by William Shakespeare, and there's 173 annotations on this page. So this is an online free copy of Othello, and students have gone through and made comments as they read the text. You can see a comment is here. This is what they highlighted. You can see what they highlighted here. And they say, I find it kind of funny that Shakespeare is kind of portrayed Roderigo as stupid. He's the only one who's on to Iago's scheming. So that's a really neat way to see not only that your students are doing the reading, but what their thoughts are on the reading. So potentially you can make this into an assignment where they need to, make a certain number of comments. And of course, you're going to probably have to have a rubric to grade them on the quality of those comments. But you can scroll through and see what other comments are here as well. Of course, these are really smart comments, probably more of a high school or a college class. Okay. Back to the presentation. Okay, that was Twine and Hypothesis. Again, Hypothesis is free, really fun way to annotate web pages. Let's go ahead and move on. All right, so now we are into design and presentations. So when I talk about design and presentations, I'm going to give you some options that are good for you to use as an educator, and again, maybe things that your students could use as well to create assignments. So first off, I always love showing people Canva. It is a freemium, so it's a free version, web-based graphic or sign creator. It has a variety of template sizes, so you can do posters, you can do handouts, you can do social media posts. What's amazing about it is that it has thousands of reusable templates that make you look like a professional. So you don't have to know anything about graphic design. You can just choose a template, put in your own content, and you look professional. So these are some examples here that I pulled and just edited my own content. Now, the trick is that there are free and paid graphics and templates, so as you use it, you just have to make sure you're not using any of the elements that are pay elements. I mean, they're all relatively cheap still, like maybe $1 to $3 each, so it's not, necessarily going to break the bank if you have a budget for this, but I've done all of my work in Canva using just the free stuff. And most significantly, you can upload your own Creative Commons licensed media, or you can upload anything that you have that you want to use in a template. So I'm talking about like photographs, icons, graphics, that kind of thing. You can upload your own content to use with their templates. And again, you have to make sure you use a free template, but there's so many options for making really wonderful things with your own content. So I use this all the time. I use it for templates for class. I use it for handouts. I use it for posters, social media posts, for my website, all sorts of things. It's wonderful, and it saves all your work in there as well. And you can also share your work with others if you wanted to have someone else work on your design, maybe approve it. Again, could also be a nice collaboration tool for your students to use as well. All right, now this slide is kind of a 2-for-1. I'm actually sharing 2 stock photo collections. So I assume that you are perfectly capable of going out and finding free stock photos. You've probably used Pixabay or Pexels or Unsplash, but what a lot of the free stock photo sites are missing is photos of people that aren't white and gender conforming. So these are just 2 of some of my favorite stock photo websites. One is called Nappy. It's beautiful high-res photos of black and brown people for free. The other is called the Gender Spectrum Collection. It features images of trans and non-binary models that go beyond the cliches. So you can see these are very just normal photographs. It's not like, whatever's unique about them is being really highlighted. Like, say, I don't know, if you had someone in a wheelchair and the photographs showing how capable they are, even though they're in a wheelchair. We're avoiding cliches like that. These are just normal people going about their everyday lives, and these stock photo collections help normalize these people and just being normal people living their lives. So I can actually show you examples of both of these really quick. So this is Nappy. You can browse through the collection in its entirety, or you can limit to some items on the categories on the left here: people being active, people eating food, making food. Yeah, someone enjoying virtual reality there. I think I've used that photograph before. Yeah, it's just nice, normal photographs that are a nice alternative to your standard stock photo sites that are not offering any diversity. So if you click on for free, it'll actually give you the terms of how you can use it for free. They actually have a Creative Commons 0 license, which means that technically you don't need to give any credit for these, and you can use them however you want. But they do encourage you to give credit when you do use their photographs. So that's really nice. It's really nice that they're entirely free, and you're not going to step on anyone's copyright and infringe it in any way by using these photos. This one is the Gender Spectrum Collection, Stock Photos Beyond the Binary. It's brought to you by Vice. It's got guidelines here on how to reuse these items. Let's see here. Here's a usage guidelines. So they do have a Creative Commons license. It is a Attribution, non-commercial, no derivative. So basically you can use the photographs as they are. You cannot use them for commercial works. And of course you have to give credit to the photographer for each of these. So again, just similar to Nappy, you can go through and browse the entire collection. You can see people at work in a variety of workplaces with a variety of other people. It's a really nice collection with, things that you don't see every day. It's nice to have some diversity in your stock photos. So yeah, those are both really nice resources that you can use for free, pass this on to your students. And again, in Canva, you can always download photographs from a site like one of these and use them in Canva to create something new. Okay, let's move on. All right, next up is Microsoft Sway. This is a really neat, I call it a presentation software, but it does more than that. It's kind of like a storytelling software or a really interesting lesson software. I'll give an example in just a sec. But what's neat about it is you can embed videos, GIFs, text, graphics, and iframes, and kind of like Canva, it has these sort of built-in, I don't want to say templates, but basically anything you put in there, it makes it look really nice without you having to do any programming. Let's go ahead and just dive in and take a look. So here's an example. I've actually got two examples for you. So first off is a lesson on desertification for, I think it's a social studies book. Okay, so you scroll through, it opens up with an image and a title. It's got built-in videos, built-in graphics. The videos kind of appear dramatically as you scroll through. This one's pretty video reliant, but we got some photographs that pop in here. And we got a little bit of storytelling here. So kind of, jauntily paced photographs with image credits here, captions describing what's going on in the photographs. It's again a little bit more than what your students might have to read normally in a textbook. As the Sway creator, you just have to pop in the images and pop in the content, and it makes it look really nice. So this, you can actually click on these and scroll through the photographs as if they're a stack of photos. So that's pretty cool. We've got one more example for you here. This is quadratic functions graphing. I think this one's really interesting because they make a really good use of GIFs to help kind of teach their users about quadratic functions. So they're trying to say, give you the gist here, going up and down the y-axis, what number changes? So you can see as this GIF moves, as this parabola is moving up and down the graph, you can get an idea of the number that's changing in the corresponding equation. So I think this is a really neat use of being able to use dynamic content to teach mathematical concepts. As you scroll through, there's more examples. Now it's moving across the x-axis and something's changing in the equation here. It's got guiding questions. What number changes? What number stays the same? I just think it's a really neat example. And of course, this took a bit of preparation. They had to either find these GIFs or create them themselves before they could pop them into this Sway. But I think it's used to a really powerful effect here. So they made use of some handwritten notes in this item. They've got a little screenshot from the textbook, perhaps, along with some handwritten notes and another graph here. So again, it's feeling a little bit more personal, a little bit more customized, a little bit less like a standard textbook, even though it's still teaching you a lot. And then it's got an interactive element here because I think they put this in as an iframe. All right. So that's that. A lot of options for, again, creating lessons yourself or for assigning your students to use these platforms to use them to create, their own assignments, for example, or to make presentations for class even. Especially since you're teaching online a lot more now, you could have them use Sway or something similar to create a presentation for the class, and they could just upload it as a link, or on Zoom, they could actually share it as they go through the whole presentation and show everyone, like, kind of manually what their presentation's all about. All right, so let's move on to productivity tools. the more you teach online, I'm sure the more you teach in general, you just have a ton of content. So here's some ways to kind of help manage the overwhelm. If you aren't using Dropbox, I really recommend it. I mean, there's alternatives to Dropbox. Google Drive does something similar. What I love about Dropbox, I use it personally and actually pay for a subscription even though there is a free version. It stores everything in the cloud automatically. So whatever computer I'm on, I've got, the computer I share with my husband. I have my laptop. I actually have a tablet as well. No matter where I'm working, my documents will automatically upload to Dropbox. So that's a really great way to avoid losing files or, accidentally deleting them. And Dropbox also has a feature that'll let you recover anything that you did delete. Or if you made changes you didn't mean to make, you can also roll it back to a previous version. And most significantly for me is that I can access my files from anywhere. So no matter what I'm working on, I can just jump onto a different computer and work on what I was working on this morning on my laptop, on my main computer. I can open up files on my phone and edit them while I'm commuting. It's really nice to be able to access your files from anywhere. You can send someone something in an email without having to be on your computer. The free version does offer 2 gigabytes free. I highly recommend having something like this that's automated and just uploading all of your materials to the cloud so you don't have to worry about losing anything, especially if you're using multiple devices. Okay. Next up is IFTTT, which stands for if this, then that. It's kind of hard to describe, but what this platform does is it makes all of your things work together. You can automate your life by reusing existing, quote, recipes, or you can create your own. So you get some examples here of what some of those recipes are. Maybe you have Dropbox and you want to use Google Drive as well. You can actually sync your Dropbox with your Google Drive. You can back up photos you post on Facebook to Dropbox. Get emails if there's going to be rain, save Instagram to Dropbox, so on and so forth. You probably get the gist with this. Basically, whatever platform you have that allows kind of like third-party logins, you'll have to use if this and that to log into your third-party sites to make them work together. But there's like infinite recipes you can reuse and create to make your stuff work together. So if there's ever anything in your life that you're like, oh, I wish these two things would just talk to each other, this is your option. You can use this to make things work together, which is really nice. All right, next up is Evernote. Kind of similar to Dropbox. This is one of those platforms where you can use it on, this is one of those apps where you can use it on multiple platforms and always have what you need right at your fingertips. So it's basically a note-taking software that also helps you organize your life. So it says capture anything. You can do images, you can do voice notes, you can link documents from Dropbox or Google Drive, and you can install Evernote on all of your devices. So again, you can access your notes anywhere. And what's nice is that you can actually search by keyword and find all your materials that have that keyword. You can use, if you have an iPad, you can use the complimentary app called Penultimate to use your your stylus. You can actually hand write your notes into Penultimate, and magically it'll make those notes searchable for you. And it does sync, all of this syncs automatically between mobile and desktop. So whether you like to type your notes or whether you like to hand write your notes, you can actually put your notes into Evernote and it'll make them searchable and it'll make it so you can find them on any device that you're on. And again, it's all backed up to the cloud so you don't have to worry about losing anything. You can do checklists, you can have different notebooks and folders. It's really handy. I've loved using Evernote. All right. Next up is Trello. So maybe Evernote isn't your thing, or maybe it is. If you want to go a little bit farther with project management and organizing your tasks, I recommend Trello. I've used it extensively to do to-do lists and project management. So what you're looking at here in the screenshot is called a board. I have a board for basically each of my projects, each of the things I'm working on. And within the board are lists. And so you've got an example here, kind of like a getting things done kind of style, where you've got the ideas, you got the to-do list, you got what you're actually working on right now, and then you got done. So this is someone is actually working on like a home remodel here. So you can kind of see what they're working on, what they're doing and what they've actually gotten done here. And I just got to say, don't underestimate the power of having a list of all the things you've already done. When you feel like you're drowning, it's so nice to be able to look someplace and see, look, I have actually achieved a lot of things today. If you're working as part of a team or maybe even a class, you can delegate tasks. That could be good for group work for your students. You can drag and drop, you can tag items, you can label, prioritize, you can use color coding. There's lots of add-ins for Trello for free. Again, this is all free, so you can kind of make it work more the way you want it to. It's really wonderful for project management. It does have a very visual format. You can add on photographs and attachments as well. If you use Trello and you find it too simple, there's another free option called ClickUp, which kind of like takes Trello to the next level and kind of lets you have like your boards talk to one another. The one downside of Trello is each board is kind of self-contained. If you have a really complex project where maybe you'd have like multiple boards that you want to feed into one board, that's hard to do with Trello without having to like shell out some extra bucks for the add-ins that make it work together. But ClickUp might be a good option for you if you have something really complex with a lot of moving parts. By the way, Trello is really wonderful. I've used it for a very long time. All right, pause here for a moment. All right, so next up is collaboration. But, I find as I've developed this presentation and kind of been going through it, a lot of these apps could kind of like flow between categories. I mean, I've got learning activities, I've got presentations, I've got collaboration, but a lot of these items could be used for different things depending on how you end up wanting to use them. So this is kind of where my mind went with these apps, but it might be that you look at these apps and think of something totally different. So for this category, I've only got a couple of items here, and the first is Padlet. All right. So Padlet is basically like an online corkboard. You can use it as an activity where you ask students to post something to a Padlet, maybe that they find. You can use it as a class brainstorming where maybe you post like a question and they post an answer. And you can use it as a content organizer. So here's an example of how I used it. I was teaching a workshop on selecting openly licensed materials to use in teaching. And I had students post to the board 2 criterion that they would use to evaluate textbooks or materials for course adoption. So this is a really nice way to see what my attendees were thinking, kind of where their minds were going. So that's a good way of just kind of checking on understanding. So I was teaching this in person and I had this Padlet on the screen at the front of class. So as they answered, these things would just automatically pop up onto the screen at the front of class. And this is anonymous as well, so they don't have to worry about their names being attached to it. So that's one way to kind of check on student progress. Oops, I clicked on that and didn't mean to. Well, you can see it live. The other option is you can use it as a content organizer. So there was a teacher that actually made little categories. You can choose the layouts for these, by the way. So whether you want it to be all scattershot everywhere or whether you want it categorized, you can choose for it to be something where users that visit it are able to post, or you can lock it down so it's just static content, which is what this teacher has done. And they've posted little photographs of books by category here. And of course, there's links to go visit those books. So I think it's really neat. It's a first grade bookshelf. So again, use as a class activity, use as class brainstorming, use a content organizer. Your students can post anonymously. Again, as the Padlet lead, you do have full control to be able to moderate content, delete content that's inappropriate, that kind of thing. And what's also really nice too is that kind of like this, once things are contributed to the Padlet, you kind of just keep it forever. So you can always go back and kind of see what your students did and keep that for future reference. So you always get to keep it. All right, another option for collaboration, if you haven't used it, you've probably heard of it if you haven't used it, is Slack. This is free. It's a free messaging software. Again, cross-platform, PC, phone, Mac, all that good stuff. You can use it to create free private conversations and channels. It's great for classes or even for groups to use. So I teach in a master's program and my students make their own groups. And a lot of them use Slack to communicate because basically You can create one kind of Slack space, like workspace. Like say you're working in a group in a master's program. So your group creates a Slack, but then you can have individual channels within Slack to talk about different projects that you're working on, or maybe just for side chatter. There's a lot of different options to kind of customize how you want to organize your talking. There's direct messages as well, so each person has to create their own account. You can direct message other people. And what's really, really, really wonderful about Slack is you can go back and search really easily to see what we talked about previously. You can search shared files or any files that have been shared through Slack. You can integrate it with Google Drive or Dropbox. It's a really nice way to be able to communicate. So again, this could be used for a class. You can maybe have your class set up in here, and you could have different channels for the different projects. You could have a channel just for side chatter again. Your students can message each other. I mean, that depends on your class and how you want to set up the privacy options, but it's a nice way to kind of have one centralized place to be able to do course communication. And then if people do have it set up on their phones, items in the class in certain channels could also be pushed to phones as well, so it's a good way to do announcements. All right, let's move on to assessment. So this isn't like, big A assessment. These are like little assessment options like formative or summative assessment. So one of my favorites here is Mentimeter. You might have heard of Poll Everywhere. It's really similar, but I think Mentimeter is a little bit more user-friendly. Mentimeter is a really nice audience response tool. You can use it on web or mobile, and there is a free version. Of course, it's a little bit limited, but it is free. I like to use Mentimeter in webinars especially because when you're in a webinar, as you probably found with Zoom, it's hard to see if people are paying attention, if your students are paying attention. So here's a larger view of what this would look like for your students. Basically, if you pull up Mentimeter, share your screen in Zoom, you run the Menti, they call it little Mentees. And it has instructions at the top. Go to menti.com and use the code whatever. And so your student can open up a browser window, open up their phone, go to menti.com, they'll just enter the code, and they'll see the questions that they can respond to on screen. And there's a variety of options for formats. This one's just a bar chart. So as people answer, they can answer multiple ones. Little bars change live as they answer. So it's a really nice way to kind of run a quick class discussion. Again, it's anonymous, but you can limit how they can respond to it to keep things, on topic and focused. It's a nice way, again, as the instructor to see that people are there, they are paying attention, and to kind of pause for a moment in a presentation and make sure everything's going okay. So again, this is great for summative or formative assessment. Well, actually, no, I guess it's not really good for summative assessment. More like a formative assessment tool to make sure that everyone's paying attention and getting it as they go. Because unless you have it set up a certain way, you're not going to be able to track student names. All right, next up we've got Socrative. This is a fun student polling or quizzing using any device. You can see the options here is a quiz. Space Race is the gamify option. There's also exit ticket. So Socrative is really cool because this is something you can run on screen as a quiz. You can have them partner up or individually do a space race. This is kind of like answering questions as quickly and accurately as possible in a competitive way, kind of like Kahoot. And there's also exit ticket. So this option is before they leave the lesson or move on to something else, they have to do something. And if they get it right, that's their exit ticket, allowing them to move on. You can do quick questions, multiple choice, true, false, short answer. If they do put in their names, you can use this as a summative assessment, and it's a nice place to kind of organize what everyone has responded to, and you can download reports from it as well. This is a fun kind of different option to be able to use in your class, and you can also reuse again and again anything you create in there. Again, free. There's a paid option, but the free option, it's worked pretty well for me. All right, so we're moving right along here. We're almost done. So last section is about media recording. You're probably finding more of a need these days to create audio and video for your students, so I've got a few options for you. The first one is TechSmith Capture. This used to be known as Jing, Jing. It's a free screen recording and screen capture software. It's really neat because it's just a little pop-up on your computer screen where you can bring it up quickly, record something, and it makes it really easy to share. So if you just want to email something to somebody, it's really quick and easy. Now, because it is free, it does have limitations. There is a last time I checked, a 5-minute limit on videos, for example, and you're not going to do like big HD videos. It's kind of really great for little quick explainer videos, or maybe just showing something really fast. This is from the company that also produces, not free, Snagit and Camtasia. So Snagit is a really nice full-featured screen capture and recording software for your desktop. Camtasia is really great for kind of more in-depth screen recordings. I'm actually using Camtasia now to do this webinar, and this is more full-featured video editing. But the free version is TechSmith Capture, formerly known as Jing. It's a nice way to kind of get your feet wet and see if it's something you even want to do. It's a handy little software to keep. Again, free, but there's more robust versions if you want to shell out a little bit. All right. So say you want something like Camtasia, a video editor, but you don't want to pay for it. If you have a Mac computer, I think that you get a free video editor that comes with it. But otherwise, you can use something like Shotcut. This is an open source video editor. You can import screen captures from Jing/TechSmith Capture, and you can use this to trim, fade, and combine clips. So say you are using TechSmith Capture to do short screen recordings, you decide you want to combine all those, you could string them all together into one video using Shotcut. Again, completely free and open source. It's a very complex software as far as you can do basically all the things you want to do with a video, you can do with this, but you do have to know kind of what you want to do. Whereas if you're using something like Mac's built-in video software, I can't remember what it's called at the moment, that has a lot of like kind of built-in features to make it more easy to put together a video. This one you have to kind of DIY, but again, it is free, fully featured, and will produce entire MP4s for you. Next up, Audacity. I've only got one more after this and we'll be done with this presentation. Audacity is an open source audio editor. I use Audacity all the time for audio clips. Basically, you can use this to record audio and then you can adjust it within Audacity. So if you have like an audio that you think might be interrupted, if you're doing some sort of narration, you can do it piece by piece, pause it, come back to it, combine clips, trim the audio. Oops. Well, I guess this actually is my last slide. And it's an all-in-one place to get your audio recording done. It has a ton of effects. You can clean up your audio if there's a lot of background noise. You can brighten it. You can do all the things that you want to do. You can actually do with Audacity and produce them as audio clips. This is the nice thing that you can do for if you have like if you want to be able to give your students the options to listen to a lesson, or if you're doing a video and you want to separate the audio from the video so students can either watch the video or just listen to the audio, Audacity can help you do that as well. So that actually does bring me to the end of my presentation. I thought I had one more slide, but I do not. Again, I've got all 20 apps here, starting with learning activities. Remember, we started with Kahoot way back 47 minutes ago. Designing presentations. These are the wonderful stock photos that I really recommend. I've got some good productivity tools. Talked about a couple collaborative tools. Assessment, as far as, Mentimeter could be used for formative assessment, Socrative for more summative assessment. And I got some options here for you for media recording. Just to recap, all of these are free. A lot of them have versions that you get a little more if you pay, but otherwise there is a free version for you to use. And I haven't paid for any of these. I just use the free versions, and I've done pretty well in my few years of teaching here. So I hope you found some of these useful. If you want to get links to these and not have to search for them yourself, you can head on over to my website, lindsay-o'neill.com, lindsay-o'neill.com/20 apps for educators teaching online. Or here's a tiny URL for you to enter and peruse those resources. And there you'll find that I have links to all of these free apps. And I also have links to examples of them as well. And I'll also embed the webinar recording when it is available there. So again, thank you so much for joining me for this webinar and for watching. I hope you found something useful that will help make your life teaching online a little bit easier. Thank you so much. Have a great day.